You may have seen one of the many videos of Canada that have emerged recently. You can see Indians dancing on the streets to Punjabi songs, with more brown people on the streets than white people. And then there are those videos that show hundreds of students and Indian immigrants in line for menial jobs, telling you the dire employment situation that is currently unfolding in Canada. One of my friends recently moved from Delhi to Brampton in Canada, and he told me that it felt like he had moved to Punjab and not Canada. As of 2022, the country boasts an annual intake of around 450,000 new immigrants, a rate that is among the highest in the world. In 2021, 4 lakh people got the PR in Canada, of which roughly 32% were Indian nationals. And India has been the largest source of immigrants for Canada for several years now. Immigration already accounts for almost 100% of Canada's labour force growth, with immigrants accounting for 41% of engineers, 36% of physicians, and 33% of business owners with paid staff. And Canada plans to welcome 500,000 new immigrants a single year by 2025. So the question has to be asked, what is the deal with Canada and immigrants? What are going to be the long-term implications of such a large and quick immigrant inflow for Canada? And while Canada has ambitious immigration plans, what are going to be the implication of PM Trudeau's hurried acquisition, where he claimed that India killed a Khalistani activist on Canadian soil? Well, to answer these questions, we need to understand why Canada is allowing so many immigrants in the first place. One reason why the immigration policy has actually been put into place is because of the aging population and shrinking workforce. Baby boomers defined the population that was born between 1946 and 1965, which was a period of high population growth across the West shortly after World War II. This boom in births was a result of several factors, including economic prosperity, the return of soldiers from war, and the desire for families to start or grow. In 1966, baby boomers represented almost 42% of the Canadian population. And right now, these people are aged between 56 and 75 years. So most of them are either close to retirement or have already retired, contributing nothing to the Canadian economy. Moreover, Canada also has free healthcare for its citizens. And this aging population also puts a lot of pressure on the healthcare system and its finances. So Canada was under the threat of facing a double whammy situation. 42% of its population would have earned nothing for the country, while also making the government spend more on their healthcare and pension instead. And a significant labour gap would have been created due to not enough young Canadians entering the labour market to replace this retiring workforce. Secondly, Canada has been experiencing a low fertility rate. The fertility rate in Canada has been declining steadily since 2009, with the trend intensifying during the COVID-19 pandemic. Fertility rate is basically the number of children per woman, and a replacement level fertility rate is necessary to ensure a country does not shrink in size. In 2020, Canada reached a record low fertility rate of 1.4 children born per woman, well below the replacement rate of 2.1. Canada's low fertility levels have far-reaching implications. A country cannot grow if it is literally shrinking in size. Moreover, Canada also has an extremely low population density. Canada is the second largest country in the world by area, behind only Russia. But the population density in Canada is just 4 people per kilometer square, one of the lowest in the world. So while the potential for growth is unlimited, actually growing could turn out to be a major challenge for Canada. And Canada has found the perfect solution to all these problems: immigration. Canada's immigration policy has been extremely friendly towards qualified potential immigrants for several decades now. And it has picked up pace even more in the past few years. And this has had multiple benefits for them. Firstly, it solves the problem of a shrinking labour force for them. Between 2016 and 2021, immigrants accounted for nearly 80% of the national workforce growth. And while it may not seem like it, but Canada isn't just allowing anyone with a passport to come live in their country. There is a sophisticated points-based system in place to filter the applicants. It focuses on things like age, language proficiency, education, and work experience, favoring individuals who can readily integrate into the labour market. Approximately 60% of these immigrants fall within the age range of 20 to 40 years. injecting youthfulness and vitality into the Canadian society. Moreover, an impressive 70% of these immigrants are either pursuing or have already attained a university degree, indicating a highly educated and skilled cohort. This infusion of young and educated talent helps fill gaps in the job market, particularly in sectors experiencing shortage of skilled workers. Immigration already accounts for practically all of the country's labor force growth, and projections suggest that by 2032, it will also constitute all of the nation's population growth as well. Secondly, it leads to an increased tax collection for the government. When immigrants enter the labor market, they pay income taxes and contribute to government programs such as the Canada Pension Plan and Medicare. In Canada, 33% of business owners and staff are immigrants, which significantly contributes to tax payments. As more newcomers become employed and earn an income, the government collects even more tax revenue. And this is a segment that is tax ready. They come in and start paying taxes straight away. Unlike someone born in Canada, who feeds off the government's free education and resources for about 20 to 25 years before they actually start paying taxes. Even the tuition fees for postgraduate courses is more than 50% higher for international students in several cases. And this revenue generation also helps support Canada's pension programs and healthcare system, as I already mentioned. And thirdly and finally, immigration offers economic growth by adding to the population and ensuring its sustainability. The infusion of new residents, particularly in the working age population, helps maintain economic growth and productivity. Newcomers increase the demand for goods and services, helping to maintain a stable employment landscape in the country. And by welcoming these immigrants, Canada can mitigate the adverse effects of an aging population on its economy and maintain a healthy population growth rate. So with Canada having serious benefits from the inflow of immigrants, they continue to push for higher and higher number of immigrants every single year. But that still does not explain Punjab's fascination with the country. Canada has almost 1 million Punjabis, which account for roughly 2.6% of Canada's entire population. Punjabi has become Canada's fourth most spoken language, registering a 49% growth in the last 5 years. So why does Canada have a disproportionately high number of Punjabis? Well, the roots of this go back to our colonial history. Canada used to be a part of the British Empire, similar to India. And in the 1900s, Punjabis were guaranteed jobs by agents of big Canadian companies like the Canadian Pacific Railway. And this saw small-scale migration of Punjabi and Sikh immigrants in the hope of finding a well-paying job. They found success in this goal, finding work in industries such as logging, milling, and farming. This feedback eventually reached their homes in Punjab, and the perception began to form that they could get a well-paying job in Canada. By 1923, Vancouver became the primary cultural, social, and religious center for Punjabi Canadians, and it had the largest ethnic Indian population of any city in North America at that time. In 1947, Indo-Canadians were granted the right to vote, and immigration restrictions started becoming looser and looser. And by the 1950s, Punjabi Canadians started gaining respect in business and in the community in general for their business acumen and work ethic. In 1967, Canada further loosened the immigration policy and scrapped quotas based on race and ethnicity that existed back then, after which the Punjabi population in Canada began to grow even more faster. But the major influx of Punjabis, primarily Sikhs, actually happened in the late 1980s due to the Khalistan movement. The movement demanded the creation of a separate Sikh state called Khalistan in the 1980s, which eventually culminated in Operation Blue Star in 1984. In June 1984, the Indian Army initiated the operation to evict armed militants from the Golden Temple complex in Amritsar. This was led by Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. This operation resulted in significant damage to the holiest Sikh shrine in the world and the death of many, including Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. As a result, in October later that year, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was assassinated by her Sikh bodyguards. This unfortunately led to anti-Sikh riots in several parts of India, most notably in Delhi, which resulted in the death of thousands of innocent Sikhs. So naturally, there was a general atmosphere of fear and insecurity within the Sikh community in India, and many Sikhs looked to move out of India altogether. And Canada, with its well-established Punjabi Sikh community, became a preferred destination for many of those people. The existing community there played a crucial role in supporting and accommodating the new arrivals, making Canada an attractive destination for these refugees. While there were just 5,000 Sikhs in Canada in 1961, this number had increased to 147,000 by 1991. And while the Khalistan movement had already started cooling off in the 1990s, the Punjabi Sikh population that had moved to Canada had started doing really well financially. While we will talk about how the Khalistan movement never really died outside India in a few minutes, the initial result was that after an initial phase of struggle, almost all of them were able to establish themselves, getting jobs or starting their own business and having a happy family settled in Canada. And this community became the archetype of Canadian dream of Punjabis. You already had a well-established community of your kin in another country that promised to offer a much better lifestyle and security than you had in India. So people from Punjab continued to move to Canada in the following decades as the immigration policy also became more and more welcoming. The result is that the Punjabi population in Canada has increased from 167,000 in 1991 to 942,000 in 2021. Similar to how there is a lot of parental expectations in the eastern states of UP and Bihar to get a government job, there is still a lot of parental expectations and peer pressure in Punjab on the youth of Punjab to move on to Canada in search of a better lifestyle. So the immigration from Punjab in particular and India in general continues. But there is a dark side to this immigration policy as well. The issue of severe job shortages for new immigrants in Canada is a concerning aspect of the country's immigration policy. You can see video after video of newly arrived Indians standing in long lines for job interviews, where instances of hundreds of people competing for a handful of open positions have also come up. Many newcomers end up in a minimum wage job like driving for Uber or working at a McDonald's, which does not fully utilize their skills and experience. And this instead makes them a part of the gig economy rather than having an actual long-term career. So according to statistics of Canada as of 2021, almost 42% of non-permanent residents and 16% of immigrants who moved to Canada in the last 5 years lived in poverty. And this issue of unemployment, poverty and overpopulation is giving rise to yet another problem: a shortage of affordable housing. Major cities in Canada are seeing a concentration of new immigrants and students, leading to a rapid increase in rent. To make things worse, international students are often asked to pay up to 6 months of rent in advance as security because they do not have a credit history in Canada. Toronto and Vancouver are now ranked among the 10 most unaffordable places in the world. And if you want to buy a house instead of renting, that is almost impossible right now. The median mortgage payment in Vancouver is currently at 95%, which means that a family with median income would need to spend 95% of their monthly income as loan repayments if they want to buy a house. So when well-established Canadian families are unable to afford houses, it is very clear that the situation is severely more concerning for new immigrants and students. According to Canada's National Housing Agency, the country needs to build 5.8 million new homes by 2030 to solve this housing crisis. That is about 830,000 new homes a year, more than 3 times the 260,000 homes it actually ended up building in 2022. Simple demand and supply laws tell us that accommodating another 1.5 million people in the next 3 years is definitely going to worsen the situation. The implications of more immigrants on a housing market, particularly in specific cities that are already overcrowded, demands a need for more careful planning. So until Canada comes up with a plan to actually accommodate new immigrants, it is important to tread with caution before making the decision to move to Canada. But it seems like PM Trudeau has taken an unconventional approach to delay the housing crisis by possibly stopping immigration from the country that gives Canada the highest number of immigrants, India. See, while the Khalistan movement eventually faded away in India and Sikhs are now a highly respected and helpful community in our country, that is not the case with Sikhs who migrated to Canada or the UK during the 1980s. There is a faction in these two countries, particularly in Canada, that still demands the creation of Khalistan. And since they now form a part of the Canadian vote bank, they are not a faction that can be easily ignored by any political party. It is important to note here that even in Canada, it is not that all Sikhs are a part of this extremist movement. but the ones that are a part of it are loud enough to make a lot of noise. So Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau making allegations that Indian diplomats were responsible for the killing of extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar seems to be more like a political move to get the votes of the Sikh vote bank in Canada. But irrespective of what his motives were behind such a bold statement without sharing any evidence whatsoever, the repercussions are going to be very severe for Canada. This looks like a move that will definitely affect Indian immigration to Canada. And it is beyond me how Canada will meet their ambitious immigration targets without any contribution from their largest immigration provider so far, India. As for Justin Trudeau, he has recently been voted as the worst Canadian Prime Minister in the last 50 years by Canada. So he has a tough path ahead, not just externally, but within his country as well. And it will be interesting to see how the situation unfolds from here, with a complete collapse of his government in Canada also being a possibility. If you are interested, I have added the link to an excellent read in the description below on why Canada has both English and French as their national language, if you didn't already know this. So I recommend that you check it out. And while you are there, follow me on LinkedIn as well. If you have a friend who is planning to move to Canada, do share this video with them. And also hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Let me know in the comments which story you want me to cover next. Until then, goodbye.